The greatest distraction is forgetting your own divinity while becoming lost inside of the dream of physical reality. We often become so immersed in the roles that we take on, the responsibilities that we're carrying, and ultimately the stories that unfold around us, to the point that our connection to the very source in which we have emerged from becomes extremely fragmented. And so the solstices are ultimately designed to illuminate not just what's happening within our physical experience, but also unveiling entire dimensions of our being, inviting us to gently bring our awareness back inwards to illuminate entire dimensions of ourself and our own soul's expression that have ultimately become very repressed. And I'm just seeing it as a gateway that opens you back into yourself, into whom it is that you've always been, and what it is that you've always been. And there's a specific phrase that's desiring to come through, and I believe it is whom you were before your conditioning. And I'm seeing it as, you know, in the southern hemisphere, it's the winter solstice. In the summer, in the northern hemisphere, it's the summer solstice, right? And the earth herself is able to hold these two, I'm just seeing like polarizing forces that are actually incredibly complementary. And I'm seeing it as opposite ends of a magnet that appear like they're repelling each other, but they actually allow us to cross the threshold into, I'm seeing you passing or you being initiated into opening yourself up to vast portions of your own human potential, bridging the gap of spirit and matter. There's some type of fusion, and I'm just seeing like celestial balancing of your own humanity and your own divinity, and allowing them to become one once again. And as you become aware of this, and it subtly shifts and transforms the way that you see yourself in this realm, it ultimately allows you to reconnect with your own internal power, and the way that you engage with this physical, tangible experience becomes transformed. And so that's what it's designed to do. And today, happy solstice, my love. We are going to actually dive into an astral travel that came through. I'm going to run through each scene with you, and then we're going to do a reading around this. But yeah, it's ultimately you moving from solely operating in survival. And I'm just seeing contrasting experiences that you've had, the experience of contrast, the law of duality, where you've moved through the system entirely disconnected from yourself. And now you get to experience what life on earth looks like, being entirely connected to yourself. And that internal connection anchors you so deeply into, I'm just seeing a relationship that you've been able to not only foster, but return to, right? So anyway, it's a return to your inner sun. It's a return to your own internal divinity. And when we speak about even like the solstices are masculine portals. So it's very much a yang energy. It's a moment where you're being called to action. You're being called to embody this knowing. Let's go ahead and dive into this astral travel exploration. I'm going to probably throw up some illustrations to give you some visual depictions of the scenes as I read my notes to you. And then we'll do a reading around this. The first scene I saw was you utilizing these modalities and understanding the gifts that you had. This is being invoked within you right now due to the celestial architecture that's unfolding within the cosmos that becomes inseparable to the shifts that you're seeing occurring. And I'm seeing a rippling into your earthly timelines. It's bleeding into your earthly timelines. Anyway, you were being shown which gift was most aligned with your soul's highest expression and would ultimately have a deep impact on the planet Earth and those around you. The first thing that was being revealed was somebody driving, and I saw it as an analogy of what is driving you. These gifts and abilities came from things that brought you an innate sense of joy, and so you were naturally being noticed for them. And it was because the engine roared effortlessly, even on rainy days, no matter the conditions on Earth. And I saw it as an analogy for your internal engine. It's almost a reference for this is something that you were so deeply passionate about that it is infused into your very way of being. And so your path of abundance becomes inseparable to the things that bring you joy. It reminds you of the quote of, if you can find something that you really love, then it will never feel like you're working a day in your life. It feels more like play. So the image I was being shown of this engine that continued to roar no matter what the external conditions were, right? Even if those conditions are not ultimately ideal, it's a reminder that your abilities aren't meant to be manufactured. They're simply meant to be expressed. And I'm hearing it's in needing nothing that you return to the fact that you are already everything. It kind of reminds me of a queen of coins energy. That's what they're showing me. And they actually want me to read it from this multi-dimensional deck. So let's go ahead and find her. The queen of coins is known as the Geomancer in this deck. I guess we're going to break through each one of the astral scenes. And then I guess we'll pull a message between them. And it talks about she's reminiscent of the all-seeing eye, yet it also reminds me of a Queen of Coins reading that I did, and so I'll find it and link it down below. But I spoke about within the seed holds the DNA of the entire tree. So even though it appears like it may be small now, the potential and the vast potential that you have, and I keep hearing and seeing the word as a medium, as a vessel, as a conduit. And it feels like if you apply yourself, it becomes the unavoidable fate that awaits you. It becomes the natural effect that will take place in your life because of your conscious cause. And the Queen of Coins, she is able to cultivate skills, abilities. Okay, it reminds me of something that I used to say. This is going to really land deeply for some of you. She has evolved herself into becoming a very valuable asset. It's not the equipment that she has, it's not the material possessions that she has. Even if she doesn't have those things, she has her trading, negotiation, communication skills, her abilities, her gifts that she's been cultivating. That is the journey of the Pentacles that leads us to the courts of the Queen, where she has all of these internal traits. And so success isn't in anything in which she achieves in the material plane externally. The success is in whom she is as an individual, what it is that she has designed and built herself to be. She is the asset. So that's the energy of this. It's inseparable. It is you. So let me go ahead and find this real quick. Reminiscent of the all-seeing eye, the Geomancer. Talks about weaving something with your fingertips. Here we go. This is what she looks like in this deck. So let's go ahead and read her. I'm also hearing the big book and the small book, so apparently we're going to really get into it today. That's fine. Okay. Let me go ahead and find the Geomancer in the big book first. She's right here. I keep hearing the song of it's a specific song by Masego, and he goes, "How high does it take you? How high?" It's like he goes, he keeps saying, "How high does it take you? How high does it take you?" And I'm kind of seeing it as Runner's High, where it isn't going to be instantly gratifying, but the high that you get from this, the joy that it brings you, the fulfillment that it brings you, is I'm seeing just like something around this sensory experience, being able to indulge or participate or have these tangible creations take form. I'm hearing bringing something from the all-seeing eye into the physical, where you can see it and then you can actually look at it. materialize before you. Queen of Pentacles is masterful strength, generous, sensible, and grounded energy. So this is how you're showing up. The Queen of Pentacles commands floating strawberries around her aura as the Geomancer plants seeds of life at their feet. When you pull this card, take it as a sign that your masterful strength is a force for good. Be grounded and humble and nurture the earth you walk on. When you are creative and giving, you will see the world unfold around you. I'm getting chills for you, man. Okay, right. I'm getting chills for you. Ooh. Let me see. All right, so I guess that's all we need to. Where is this small book? It's right here. Hold on. Again, it could just be part of your nature. The sun card here is peeping through. So it's completely in alignment with your soul's essence. That is your source chord that animates this experience into you. It essentially plugs you into this incarnation. All right, the Geomancer. I like this because I don't know. I feel like sessions like this we're just catching up. Okay, so the Geomancer is generous, sensible, and nurturing. The Geomancer moves about as if they have roots connected to the very ground beneath their feet. Dressed in gifts from nature, the Geomancer walks lightly and with mindfulness. It's something that comes naturally to you. I keep seeing earth houses like second house. Second house is your natural talents, your self-worth, your gifts. I'm seeing not just in your possessions, but what it is you possess within yourself. It's something that you don't attach to. It's just, I'm hearing akin to your being. I don't typically say that. I don't think I've ever said that. Akin to your being. And I'm seeing something as, you know, when you write on paperwork, your next of kin, it's like an extension of you, or it's I'm hearing backed up representative. So it just feels like, I don't know, something that, what would be the word? Something that is notable about you or your energy. It's something that, not eligibility, but it's more about you just being respected for this. Let me see. It's something that is in your element. Oh, what was the time before the next of kin? It was akin to your being. Was that it? Definition? Let's use that as a keyword real quick. The akin to your being means similar to, aligned with, or resonant with your essential, natural, or true self. Yeah, akin is related to, comparable to, or a similar character. Your being is obviously your core essence, your nature, and your spirit, or the fundamental self. Yeah, it definitely reminds you of the assemblage point. It's an expression of your soul's essence and how that translates into this third dimension. Yeah, so you're choosing what feels like it's genuinely aligned with who you are at your core. That's what this is, right? It's a reflection of your soul's essence with your deepest essence. All right, let's continue. I love this. Wow. Let's just take a moment to appreciate. Okay. Donning a mask reminiscent of the all-seeing eye, they organize particles of matter between their fingertips, offering sustenance to the seedlings below. In a reading, the Geomancer is symbolic of a deep connection to the earth and its alluring powers. I'm also seeing it as something that you've channeled from the earth. And when I talk about the earth, I'm talking about the memory of the earth, which is the Akashic records. It is the database that stores a living memory of all living organisms from the past, present, and future simultaneously. So its gifts and abilities that have been, I'm seeing, reserved or held within the morphic field, which is the instruction manual of how every time you essentially go from this fluid non-physical state and then you incarnate into this physical dense material plane, you're able to recover those gifts existing in quantum potential within the field, within the morphic field, and download that into any kind of carbon-based life form or avatar or vessel in which your timeless consciousness or eternal essence is able to be seated within, to have these temporal moments or experiences. I'm seeing like these temporal lifetimes throughout the earth. So it kind of reminds you of something that you've been able to naturally anchor back into your way of being. It just feels like gifts in which you've been able to recover across lifetimes. So there's some type of connection to the earth when it comes to this. I'm hearing something around the weaving of ancestral gifts and abilities as well and bringing that forth. Anyway, they channel this earth magic with such compassion and comfort that it moves through them as a conduit. The Geomancer embodies generosity and asks us to be sensible with how we spend our money and what we can do to nurture the earth. They have a remarkable ability to see upcoming events by reading the earth's past and can cast a shield of light in a dimming world. So, again, a lot to do with the Akashic records that I'm seeing here, for sure. Just around the database that stores the memory. It could be something that you feel like you're remembering how to do again. It just feels like you're reconnecting with your own infinite potential that has lain dormant until you become aware of it again. All right, that's the first scene. Let's lock that in. Okay. Should we get a gateway of the light activation before we move on to the second one? Let me know, guys. I appreciate each one of your unique perspectives. When we do these astral travels, do you like the breakdowns where we really dissect each scene thoroughly, or we do just like a natural overlay in the end? I'm always going to do what feels most aligned in the moment, but I appreciate your perspectives. So let me see. Okay, so for this, we have Chamber of the Violet Flame, karmic release and radical acceptance, which ultimately leads to a great transformation. This is the crown chakra, right? So karmic release and radical acceptance. We also have call to action. So there's something, again, it's entire dimensions of your being that have been repressed or suppressed. And again, within those dimensions lie these capabilities or these latent potentials. That's what it reminds me of. Let me go ahead and read this real quick, just the main key aspects. Oh, I got cupping, right? Oh, do I know? I got cupping because I've been training a lot. Look at that, that's crazy. Anyway, I was like, let me just mention that because I saw it. I was like, oh shoot. All right, okay. Chamber of the Violet Flames. It felt so good, but when the lady first did it, it was like, oh. It was like a shock to my system. I was just like laughing. But that could be symbolic because even cupping, right? It restores life force and vitality. It really loosens the fascia within the body, which is essentially you can think about it as bioelectrical memory. It holds a lot of etheric memory. So I'm seeing as something that you're able to restore within your being, helping that become fluid once again when it comes to your soul's natural expression and not feeling like you have to contain or repress or restrict this way of being. Another thing I was going to say is it brings a lot to the surface, all right? It draws a lot to the surface. Nothing is a coincidence once we start these messages. Okay, so karmic radical transformation. So again, we spoke about the cause and effect. We're being given the opportunity to detach from lower vibrational experiences and turn that darkness into light. When you receive this card, know that the violet flame of transformation has been brought to you by your angels and guides. They're encouraging you to see that you're in a space of radical transformation. Transformation can be overwhelming, but know that the hand of the divine is leading the way. All past trauma is now being cleared from your energy. So it could be where you felt like you had to hide this innate natural expression just to survive throughout many lifetimes. It kind of reminds you of the witch moon or the suppression of the divine feminine in many ways. I'm seeing it as the divine masculine essence within you in the solstice being, okay, it is safe to express yourself again. It feels like you're being held within this expression. And I'm seeing it as you can embrace the essence of the sun. Okay. All past trauma is now being cleared from your energy. Stay focused on releasing the energy that no longer serves you. The violet flame is here to transmute fear into love. I was also getting a message in the beginning of this where it's the natural cycles and rhythms that the earth has moved through and the cycles of the earth in which you had experienced as temporal themes within lifetimes that was subject and localized to that lifetime, where it really wasn't safe, where you were targeted in many ways, not putting yourself in a victim archetype, but it's where those dimensional resonant experiences were playing out. That would become the foundation of understanding the contrast of the earth and being able to experience the contrast of, it reminds me of something that I posted actually, hold on. Being able to experience the contrast of suppressing these gifts or abilities, and then finally being able to release and express them unapologetically. Okay, and it reminds me of something shifting, and I posted this today, and it's actually a Chinese proverb, I believe. Let me go ahead and get it up. And it talks about when things reach an extreme, they reverse. Everything pushed too far eventually turns into its opposite. So it's almost as if, again, there is this pendulum swinging where you're coming back into harmonic order instead of experiencing these extreme polarities. Okay, there's a lot that's coming through. You can, if any fear is rising up inside now, know that it's simply a call for love. Call in the strongest form of love and know and allow those into your inner circle to support you through this transformational time. To take on all the legend aspects of your life and turn them into golden opportunities. You can align your life with the divine plan and live in a more purposeful way. Yeah. That's scene 1. Let's dive into scene 2. In scene 2, I was being shown another lesson that was unfolding, particularly with life path numbers and the unique energetic signature that you hold. And it would spread among collective groups that were in resonance with your internal state of being. And when I zoomed out, I saw that it was a self-organized system. And that's what I found most interesting, because it wasn't just individual souls or individual peoples or expression of the divine that were sharing like frequencies and ideas and passions and experiences. But literally, when I zoomed out, I saw it as this self-organized system that mirrored what we see throughout nature. You know, whether we're looking at ant colonies, neural networks, ecosystems, or even human communities, these complex structures often emerge without a central authority that's directing them. It's just a higher intelligence that's moving throughout every living being. And the field appears to be drawing attention to a similar principle, because it was showing that each person carries a unique energetic signature, yet individuals naturally begin clustering around frequencies that resonate with their own. What was being shown was consciousness not being localized or subject or limited to one specific individual, but instead it was operating through a larger network of resonance that organizes themselves as these shared frequencies. What I began recognizing very quickly was this invisible architecture that begins to take form when enough individuals become coherent around a similar signal, or they're paying attention, let's say, to the same thing. So let's go ahead and see what this is. I'm going to get a Cosmos Oracle message for this one. Let's see. Cosmos Oracle message. You have Pluto and you have expansion. Oh, this is interesting. So basically, you know, if you've been here a while, you know what Pluto is already. Pluto is an unavoidable transformation. It talks about the laws that once kept Pluto as part of our solar system began to shift one day. Some people believed that it was always a part of our solar system. Some people believe that it's never left. And others decided to kind of exile it from this system. Either way, it talks about Pluto going off to find his own tribe. He eventually began to connect with Makemake, Haumea, and all these other dwarfed planets that welcomed him in. And so the message is, well, if you don't belong, then don't belong. Don't prolong releasing or outgrowing systems that were never designed to hold the expanded version of you. This is what you've outgrown in resonance, and not just what it is that you've outgrown, and understanding that the comfort that you once had in those situations has now been surpassed by that comfort. It's where your comfort zone had become, how do I say this? How do I say this, Spirit? It was very convenient for you until the pain of staying the same became too much to bear. And so expansion is what it is that you're actually growing into, whom you're actually becoming. And naturally, the way that you move and navigate the system will reflect your own internal insights. Does this make sense? But essentially, expansion is a 999 portal. So it's a huge release, and you're being drawn towards a person, an object, a place with parsec at the base. It talks about a pause for a new flow. So within this stillness, you can actually observe and admire the intricacies and complexities of your own life journey that has brought you to this place, right? I'm hearing a liminal space between realms. That could be also where you're feeling like you are. Let's move on to the third scene. The third scene I was seeing was a wounding within some sort of shop, and the wound was feeling misunderstood or not seen or heard. This one was super interesting, and it's because I was essentially being shown that your signal, your transmission, your words, your intention was never the issue. The question is actually, does your surrounding environment and perhaps the people within that environment actually hold the bandwidth of being able to receive fully the expression that is coming forth from you, right? Are these beings fully capable of meeting you at the depths in which you've met yourself? Where it was sometimes the wound isn't that we aren't being heard, but instead it's like a wound is repeatedly attempting to transmit a signal or a message to environments that were never calibrated to receive it. I was essentially being shown the mechanics behind why that experience occurred. Because when we look at perception through the lens of consciousness, we begin to realize that communication isn't simply about what's being transmitted or expressed, but it's also about the filters through which that information is received. And so sometimes that can be taken what feels like it's the wrong way, because the information or message in which you're sending out is going to be received in a distorted way depending on how that being sees reality, right? We don't see reality as it is, we see it as we are. You can think about it as two people can receive the same message, right? Two people can, for example, watch this message right now, come into alignment with this message right now, and they may have entirely different meanings when it comes to how you're going to interpret it. And that's going to be based off of what your identity structures are. It's going to be based off of what your belief systems are and your expectations and perhaps even assumptions. So that is the beauty within contrast. That's how consciousness is expressing and experiencing itself through multiple life forms, and the ability to shift the lens through which you see life also becomes part of that experience, because maybe you'll meet it on one level one day, and then as more time, right, or change happens through space-time, your perspective also deepens, and the depth of your presence determines the depth of the experience in which you'll have. And that's within any encounter, that's within any area of your life. The depths in which you have met yourself will always determine the depth of your experience, even if that's within contrast. And when I say that, it is the depths in which you've met yourself, even if we are communicating with beings that may not be totally aware of the fact that they are infinite potential, doesn't negate the fact of what they innately are within their entire being. I'm hearing what is akin to that being. So you can recognize that within a being that may not recognize it within themselves, but also see beauty in that incremental journey that's unfolding. And it's a journey inwards, how we are all children of light learning to return to that wisdom once again. And the wisdom doesn't lie anywhere external. The wisdom lies within us. And the seeker will always find the answer to that wisdom and what that wisdom has to offer when they stop seeking it. And instead they are seated within the stillness, they're seated within the presence to meet themselves for that depth. For this message, I'm going to get a Shaman's Dream Oracle message, because shamans journey into other worlds with a level of lucidity. I'm seeing that's retained. That's quite an interesting message. With a level of wisdom that is retained. Okay, so for this, you have overwhelm and plenty, which is an overflow card, and drifter experiencing life as it comes. So the overwhelm and plenty has one warning, which is to not choose the same thing if it leaves you feeling hungry for more. They compare it to the buffet or selection of life experiences available to us. And experiencing life as it comes talks about you seeking an essence and not the form, which I'm seeing as not attaching to things or people outside of yourself. I'm seeing attached to nothing too deeply, even yourself. And this temporal experience, that the eternal being that you are and your true nature is utilizing as a divine instrument in order to navigate this terrestrial plane. And there is truth within that essence and that remembrance that stays with you as we recognize all those around us in the system experiencing that same truth, returning to that same truth. We can witness some resisting that truth. And our power lies within not judging, but understanding. Seek to understand and not to be understood. That's where your power lies. Perhaps there has been, within the buffet of life, something that has left you feeling wanting more, which is the need to understand or the need to explain yourself. The depth of presence doesn't lie in explanation. It is to be experienced. It is not to be explained. If you know, you know. All right, let's move on to the next scene. The next scene I saw, so this is getting even deeper. The next scene I saw was Black Moon Lilith. I was seeing the Black Moon Lilith archetype in the astral realm. And essentially, she was breaking off one connection that wasn't aligned. And as she did that, she simultaneously began forming new connections. I was seeing duality and the two dual aspects within you being extremely polarizing. But again, that polarization ends up becoming something extremely magnetic, where you can draw others into your orbit. You may attract admirers. You may also attract judgment. So you're mastering two realms within that leads to you becoming extremely magnetic. You have that soft feminine grace and connection with your non-physical essence, as well as this strong masculine embodiment where you're anchored in whom it is that you are. And most people repress entire dimensions of themselves because they fear of how they're going to be perceived, because you cannot be put inside of a golden cage. You can't be put inside of a box. You cannot be identified as one thing or the other when you are this and that. And that can be confusing. It can be disorientating when we're so used to just putting labels on things, reducing people to just small categories when we are all multidimensional and multifaceted. So that could intimidate others because either way, you're going to rarely land as neutral. Some of you, it's not all of you, but you may have, for example, Pluto conjunct the ascendant, which I did a reading on, or Uranus conjunct the ascendant, or in your first house. That could be something that is a little bit polarizing, where, people will have a really strong aversion to you or a really strong attraction, and there will be no, in between. There's no middle ground. So what stood out to me was when we look at this through the lens of resonance, we begin to see how certain individuals naturally become more polarizing as they move into this greater coherence or connection with themselves. And it's not because they're attempting or intending to create a reaction within others, but they're just no longer reducing themselves to accommodate the expectations of others. And so this entire scene was essentially highlighting the integration of seemingly opposing qualities, which is you being able to be soft, but you can also have this strength. You can have this logical side of yourself, but then also these emotional depth and these intuitive tides that you're able to honor. You can have grace and conviction, and that is the masculine and feminine polarities. And most people suppress entire dimensions of themselves because they've learned that certain expressions seem to generate discomfort within others, or judgment, or they feeling like, they'll be rejected from their environment. What's interesting is that these suppressed aspects, once integrated, allow our embodied frequency and our relationship with ourselves to only strengthen. We are more anchored into who we are, and therefore we become more noticeable as a side effect. And that's where Black Moon Lilith themes often emerge. And it's not necessarily because Lilith creates conflict, but because authenticity has a way of revealing unconscious material within others. Some people encounter that authentic expression and they feel incredibly inspired by it. And the lower octaves of reality is that others can encounter that same expression and experience this extreme discomfort within themselves because it activates aspects of their internal realms that still remain unresolved, where they're blocking themselves off from their own vast portions of potential, and you become a mirror of what they're suppressing within themselves. In many ways, I feel the overarching theme of this scene is the lessons within the field of dynamics that we're participating within, where the more coherent our message becomes and our embodiment and expression becomes, the less neutral the response tends to be from the external realm around us, within contrast, because you begin attracting people and opportunities and experiences that resonate with the frequency that you're embodying, while simultaneously creating that friction with the frequencies that no longer align with it. And the magnetic quality was clearly being shown in this scene because it was ultimately being enhanced through the act of creation itself. And it could be the version of self that you're creating yourself to be, that you're shaping yourself to be. I'm seeing like sculpting yourself to be. And you're no longer reducing your natural expression. And so the consequence of that will be, reaching this point within yourself where, of course, you're no longer having these contradictory forces behind what you want to do and the things that you're actually doing, because you're honoring that within your own soul's journey. But then it will also highlight those contradictions within others that have not yet fully aligned both worlds within themselves. So it's understanding that field of expression. It's understanding as well that those exaggerated emotions that we may see from those around us are often just cause for love. And if we can identify that, then it ultimately liberates us, because we understand that us doing this thing and the response that we're receiving when it comes to the lower octaves is not a reflection of us, but it's a reflection of the relationship that this being holds within themselves at this moment of their journey. And that is susceptible to change. So that's the Black Moon Lilith message. I'm going to go ahead and pull a card for this as well. Let's get a different one. Let's get a Magic of the Gathering card for this. Let's see. Black Moon Lilith. What's the Black Moon Lilith scene? Okay, you have transformation. What flipped? You also have conflict, of course. So your transformation may be causing conflict in more than one way. Okay. And again, this is like a mask that you're taking off. You even have your true self has returned here at the base, which is no longer wearing the societal mask. You're taking it off when it comes to people putting you inside of a box in some way. I'm hearing like a niche or something that's limited. You're a diamond with many facets and not just one. So Okay, conflict is human beings are highly cooperative and social creatures. It's only our societal programming, nationalities, religions, and ideologies that has us in conflict with one another. Each of us has the power to rewrite that program within ourselves and create a new way of being. Will we seek unity and acceptance or conflict? Sometimes conflict can become overwhelming in its power. The desire to win, to be right, to invalidate another can begin to run our lives. If this is happening to you, know that the juice isn't worth a squeeze and don't give in to the desire to divide. So that division that we see externally when it comes to that judgment really becomes a survival mechanism that more of the primitive aspects of our reptilian brain are essentially judging and assessing to say, am I safe? Am I safe in expression? Even when it comes to self-judgment and self-rejection of, I'm hearing the innate potential that you hold within yourself, and I'm seeing the capacity. Hold space for yourself and create safety within yourself and understand that it is safe to express. You're not seeking external validation from others, but you're able to validate your own experiences, and that's where you become your own source. Create safety within yourself so that your soul feels safe enough to play once again. And play. If you think about a child, right? A child in a jungle gym and then going down a slide, they're not focusing on how am I gonna look when I'm going down this slide? Oh, I don't want to have too much fun. I don't want to whatever it is, right? They are going down that slide and busting. Have you seen those messed up slides? It reminds me of that video of like it reminds me of there's this video. Oh, this is off topic, but it probably will have some relevance to it. Of I think it's so many people ended up complaining that this slide was so busted and it was so dangerous, and then they had like a inspector come to look at it, and so it was this grown man that came inside one of those tunnel slides, and it had all these, I don't know, like Z turns and different trajectories where he just came up flying on the other side. It was so funny. But there's something around that unexpected, like the impact that you have where, woof, I wasn't ready for that, right? I don't know, but that video was so funny. Okay, let me take a look at translation. I'm thinking, how bad can it be? And then you go through it. That's why even putting yourself out there in many ways, it becomes its own type of initiation, and it requires you to be even more on the 0 point, because when you're in the 0 point, you will observe more contrast within the world around you, and you can see where there is internal conflict happening within, you know, certain fractals that are moving through the system. And again, it really is a reflection of the relationship that we have with ourselves. So there are experiences that strip us of our surface identity and expose our true self. Use these experiences to feel the power of surrender, let go of all that is false in you, and be reborn. I can't speak right now. Is a caterpillar aware that it's going to one day become a butterfly? When it's building its cocoon, is it aware that it's making its tomb? Do not be afraid of the unknown and the inevitable. For like the caterpillar, we do not know what's on the other side. So there is like freedom that's found on the other side of that conflict. And the pros, okay, what we pay attention to will ultimately become the dominant field or perception in how we experience our reality. And the pros often weigh out the cons. We don't see the good in things because they are always that way. We see the good in things because we choose to see them from that perspective. And that is life experience within itself. That is becoming fluid in your perception and holding space for both perspectives to be true simultaneously. So that is the astral travel that came through in this season. So I'm going to love and leave you right there. I trust that this is going to meet you exactly where you are on your journey. And yeah, have a beautiful solstice. I'll speak to you very, very soon. I'm going to go so I can get this out there today. Personal reading details are also down below. Also, check out Otter Spirit if you're looking for some high quality AAA grade gemstones. One of the proceeds are donated towards otter sanctuaries. And let me know, how do these messages correspond to your own unique journey? I'll be very interested to know. And what are you doing for the solstice today? I feel like it's a full circle moment. Last year I was in Connacht and I got to watch the solstice come up. And now for the solstice, I'm on my icy sun line, which is very, very interesting. So it's very interesting. We'll talk about that more in an upcoming series. I'm definitely going to touch more on astrocartography and how things are being woven into the system and how they're being activated for our own unique journeys and soul's expression. So yeah, until next time, my love. Bye.